Good day, everybody. This is the Wolf Driver. Pardon me while I get everything rolling here. So, Wolf Driver Live. I'm coming to you from the studio today. Yesterday, we were kind of near Rehoboth Beach. We were in Delaware Beaches, it's called, the area where we were at the Junction Breakwater Trail. Now, keep in mind the video behind me is playing my dogs. Previous generation. The only one there from this generation is Lola. This is in 2019. And we're setting up. I just want to show you how we set up before we do our Wolf Driver Ventures, because it's a pretty systematical way I do it, because of course everything I do is about the dogs. So, and I want to welcome TikTok here, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, and everywhere else that I'm broadcasting. So the way we travel and what we do is pretty incredible, and probably nobody else is doing anything like this in the world. Not trying to be toot my own horn here. I know on some of my last videos I posted, a couple of them went viral. People were very excited about, and you can see that's Zorro. Zorro is since he was my big husky, because he had Malamute in him. He was about 60% Malamute, 40% husky. But people say I'd like to talk a lot, which I do, but keep in mind why I'm doing this. Everything I do to share it. I do everything I do for my dogs. I share it because I want everyone out there to know high energy breeds like huskies, working breeds, etc., are really misunderstood, and they become abandoned and surrendered way too often. And, one time's too much, but I mean, sometimes they're one of the most abandoned and surrendered breeds, because people get these breeds and they don't like huskies, and they don't understand. They look beautiful. They're striking looks, and they're so cute as puppies, of course. But when they become adult dogs, they become a lot to handle. And that's why I'm here, because I want everyone to know it's possible without being a full-time musher. By the way, you just saw Chase. He is he was one of my white huskies with brown eyes. So, and now I have a black husky with brown eyes. So, I mean, they both have this wolf-like resemblance. So I'll meander here through the video that's playing behind me. That's the SwinCar they're hooked up to, and to what I'm talking about. So I'm sharing this to give people ideas. They don't have to be a full-time musher. They don't have to live in Alaska. In fact, you can be a guy like me. I'm extreme, of course. You don't have to go to the extremes I do, and eccentric, but you can be an everyday guy and ride your dog on a bike and get it all the exercise it needs. Now, the bike I'm using in this video, or SwinCar, I should say, SwinCar is, again, like nothing most people have ever seen. It's out of this universe, because it's kind of a one-of-a-kind product, or car-like scenario, if you will, because it's built on a pendulum, which means it swings. So a pendulum swings. I mean, you've never seen anything like this. I was like, wow, it swings just like that. I mean, and it literally swings. So I know I'm saying that a few times because I can't emphasize how much it really, the movement and what that means for us driving it. Excuse me, sorry, we got an ad here. I'm sorry. But what that means for us actually driving it, I'm going to skip the ad there. Sorry about that, folks. It's and I'm going to have to go to full screen here. I don't know why. Sorry. I have to understand this better. Let me turn the phone and turn it back. So we're trying to do a lot here. Understand that. So with this pendulum-like suspension, it makes it so we can go almost anywhere, like an ATV, perhaps in some ways better than an ATV. So you got to check it out. It was produced, it's been designed, and it's manufactured in France. So it's imported from Europe. And I use it. It's truly incredible. It wasn't made for dogs. I made it for dogs. That's what I've got, a team of almost what you would call engineers, designers, engineers, team of pros I work with that help me turn all my dog dreams and all my dogs' dreams both into reality. So right there, you're seeing Chase and you're seeing Jag, and you're seeing the monuments. I wanted to mention we're on the Antietam battlefield in Maryland, which is pretty, how can I say it, a little eerie, very historic, because Antietam was one of the bloodiest battles in the Civil War. And this whole place commemorates it and tells about the happenings that they knew, the historical aspects of it, with a lot of statues and dedications to different people that were involved in it. So we were allowed to ride around on the SwinCar with the dogs in tow, the dogs doing their thing. And when we do that, by the way, it's not true dog sledding or dog mushing. It's actually called dog roading. And again, I get a lot of comments on this on Facebook and Instagram and social media because people are like, you're doing this all wrong. And people don't understand what I'm doing. Been doing this for almost 30 years. A lot of these people that comment, they probably weren't even born when I started doing this. But it's something totally different. It looks like mushing, and I have fun with it. And I call it e-mushing because I've actually merged this dog roading concept with traditional mushing or joring. Joring is, I believe, a French word they use for a lot of these dog-powered sports like bike joring, ski joring, and etc. So joring is where pretty much a dog is pulling you out in front. They do canicross, which is kind of a joring sport where the line comes off of your hips, basically off your body, and the dog pulls you from there. So that's a good picture of us with the SwinCar in front right now, and the dogs in front. You see the dogs. Now, a lot of people also are concerned. Let me explain roading. So roading is a resistance kind of sport. So it's dog resistance. So they're not pulling you because most of the time when you're roading, dog roading again, the vehicle is too heavy for the dogs to pull the amount of dogs that you're roading with. So what happens is the dogs pull into like they want to pull, but they get resistance and they wear a special harness. So the resistance is properly distributed in their body. So of course there's no injuries and they get the benefit of working the muscles, different muscles than they would work if they were in a different kind of harness doing joring sports or mushing, etc. So dog roading was developed originally, from my understanding, for hunting dogs, hunting breeds. And the hunters wanted to condition their dogs really well because they will condition a dog because they're pulling pretty hard. Again, the harness is properly managing their power and it's distributing it amongst their body. So this is Lola and Zaro, if you can see them in the background, folks. This is for the reason that to condition them. So it really wasn't developed dog roading to pull something. They even with dog roading, they'll even tether dogs to a horse. So it's not just they do ATVs, not just an electric vehicle like I'm doing. But then when you combine that with mushing or joring sports, kind of like I do, you have almost a pushing effect because they're on a vehicle that they can actually move. So then that pushing power is not all resistance because they actually are pulling or pushing a vehicle. Little bit hard to explain in this forum here, but it's all explained really nicely on my website. By the way, any questions, comments, or concerns, we're live, of course, right now. Please put them in the comment section, and my producer here will relay them to me now while I'm broadcasting. And if you come after the live broadcast, then I'll be able to go back. I answer almost everybody. I mean, even the crudest and rudest of comments, I will answer because I and I I don't care if people are saying it to make fun of me or people are saying it because they hate me or people are saying it because they love me. Because my goal is not to how can I say this nicely? Not to be accepted by anybody because I'm already accepted by my dogs. That's most important. And my wife. If my wife's watching, I love you, darling. But I'm most importantly trying to relay my information to everybody so they can get ideas and they can understand the husky breed better. Sorry, we've got a commercial here, folks. They can understand the husky breed better. And excuse me while I skip this commercial. And the betterment of all dogs, especially huskies. I'm looking to get them out of the shelters, out of the rescues. People come and adopt them and say, wow, I can have a partner to ride my bike with. I don't have to take my dog for a walk and it pulls my shoulder out of place. That's usually what happens. And people will also say to me, I wanted to address this, that, why don't you just walk your dogs? Well, the thing with walking them is, they can go on my different bikes and everything I do with the dogs, they can do usually about 30 miles. Now, we usually average 10 to 20, but if the conditions are right and we're in season, they could go 30 miles. So I can't do 30 miles. I mean, I know there's people out there that can, but I can't go a little bit more than a marathon. I can't do a marathon, period, at this point in my life. And knees and back and everything else becomes an issue, like for dogs, for us humans. Now, dogs, they age a lot faster than humans. So they'll start getting signs of arthritis and everything 8, 9 years old, depending on the breed. But I've been lucky because I've been able to stave that off with all the activities we do till later in life. So right now on the SwinCar, if you're watching the video behind me, I know TikTok's having a little time seeing that. We haven't been able to broadcast properly there. We're working on it. But you'll see I was just tending to the dogs. So when we stop, I water the dogs. I always check the dogs. And this is on whatever vehicle I'm using. But again, the SwinCar I use for roading the dogs. They're on the side and they're on actually a Springer, which is kind of for a drawing sport. I don't want to confuse everybody here. You can see again Lola and Zaro there. And behind me, when I'm on a road like this, again, I'm on the Antietam National Battlefield, and we were okay doing this. They gave us permission, or I was within their standards. I always have, if it's a road area, somebody following me, and I call the person following me my wingman, and he's part of the WooFDriver pit crew. So this enables us to be as safe as possible, and we're in walkie-talkie communication. If someone comes behind us, someone's driving, or the park ranger or something, my wingman sees him behind me and says, "Hey, WooFDriver, we got someone behind us. Pull over." Or, "Hey, WooFDriver, someone's going to be passing on your left. Look out for the truck or bike or whatever, or other dog, whatever the case may be." Someone in this, my SwinCars are all tandem models, which means two people ride in them. So what you have here is you have myself and my co-pilot, I call it, when someone's out there with me on the trail in the bike or following me in a bike or ahead of me in a bike. They're called my co-pilot, and that's Jag and Chase, by the way. All white huskies. One had blue eyes, one had brown eyes. But when they're with me, that's another set of eyes on the dogs, because you see two dogs are level with me in the driver's seat of the SwinCar, and two dogs are behind me. We got some comments. My producer has let me know, so I'm gonna put my glasses on, show my age here. And um, so Connie, great to see you. I haven't talked to you in a while. I know you've tuned into me a lot in the past. Um, Connie says people will find things wrong no matter what we do nowadays. You just keep on. I know your dogs are loving it. Thank you so much, Connie. And yes, that is, I really appreciate that, Connie, by the way. It's a fact of life. And I mean, some people, they call them trolls, or out there, keyboard warriors, just because they want to promote what they're doing, or they want to push their page. So they'll come in there and just say anything for shock value, basically. But I do try, again, no matter how rude or how off key it might be, I do try to respond because I want other people reading it to take something positive out of what was probably in some form of a negative comment. Thank you so much again, Connie. Got another comment here, and we from Christian. And Christian says, "I hope you walk with your feet out so you know how they feel." So, Kristen, here we go. So, Kristen, and that's perfect. So, Kristen wants me to walk with it was basically saying to walk basically with my feet out, I guess barefoot is what Christian was referring to. And this is such a misconception. And it really comes from people that don't understand, again, working breeds. I'm specifically talking about the husky here, but dogs' pads are amazing. I mean, from temperature control, because they're like bare skin. And if you put a husky in the snow, the pad can go on the snow and it's fine. They actually it can help control their body temperature. They sweat through their pads, and their pads, when conditioned properly, can go over some really extreme rough terrain. You got to think about it, because they've evolved from working through ice and working through rocks, climbing, getting around, etc. Now, when you add modern technology into it, you didn't have glass back then. Glass can cut their pads, of course. Ice can cut their pads too, but it's few and far between. Usually, it is a natural product. Doesn't mean it's good to be exposed to it, but for them, it's okay. Sharp ice, sharp objects, we need to be concerned with. The biggest thing, and I think what Kristen was getting to, was that I'm running them on asphalt, as you see here on the Antietam National Battlefield with the video playing behind me. So I'm sure Christians concerned about their feet on asphalt. And I want to be really clear here. I've written an article, Paul Aware, PAWARE.com, that the way I run my dogs is perfectly safe for my dogs. I would never put them in harm's way. You have really no idea, unless you've really been with me for a while, the extent I go to keep my dogs as safe as possible and what I do for them. And I know people love their dogs, but I'm an extreme guy. So what I want you to know, when we run on asphalt, that's moderation. We don't do it on a daily basis. And now you can run, excuse me, I'm going to get this ad out of here. You can run shorter distances more times. You have to keep in mind the distance you're running. You have to keep in mind the condition of the dogs, and also the temperature, of course, of the outside of the asphalt. I use a laser thermometer, but if you preclude them from getting any asphalt exposure, then when they come upon these sharper objects that I've talked about, ice, sometimes hard snow, rocks in a particular area, if you were hiking, they're going to have less protection unless you're bootied them up, because they haven't developed the proper callus. So I maintain the proper callus by doing the appropriate amount of hard surface work. And actually, for older dogs, hard surface work can be your best friend, because as they age, as we age, but as dogs age, they can't pick their paws up as high because it's hard to mobility issues, arthritis, etc. So their paws are down lower. So running on grass or dirt, they'd have to pick them up a little higher. Running on a smooth surface, they don't have to. So again, you have to think about everything in the terms of how dogs evolved, and these kinds of concepts. And what I'm talking here is proven to me over the past 30 years. It's not me just coming up with something and saying, oh, do this, do that. And I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just giving you ideas, food for thought. And I'm also saying that you might want to talk to your veterinarian. You might want to test certain ways yourself. Of course, I don't suggest testing anything with the dog. I always underdo it. So, and then I build up accordingly. So I also use salmon oil as a supplement in their food. I believe that really helps with their pads as well. The asphalt, also smooth surface, helps with their claws. So a lot of people have problems with their dogs because the dogs, they don't like getting their nails clipped or sanded down, however you maintain them or your groomer maintains them. And that's the beauty of running on a hard surface. It'll keep their claw lengths proper. Now, it's not going to affect, some dogs have dew claws. If your dog has dew claws, they're going to have to be clipped or taken down in some way, because that they're not making any contact with. And the dew claw is part of the body that doesn't get used. I believe it used to. They say they used to use the dew claws when they would eat their prey, because they would hold it down and open it up. Don't want to be too graphic here, with the dew claw. So, and some dogs have them, some dogs don't. Some people remove them, some breeders remove them. So even if you adopt a dog, it may or may not have them. So I get that comment a lot about the asphalt, and I feel like I'm the only one that's realized this or done it, but I've done it for generations of dogs. Again, moderation is the key. Booties are fine. The problem I have with booties, and I know everybody will ask this question, is that dogs can slip in them because they're getting their claws and their pads and their paws are made to grip. Even when you get to asphalt, you got to remember asphalt's similar to rock. So they can still grip in some way. When you put a booty on them, they lose any kind of grip they may have. And I've actually had dogs slide from booties. So there's rubberized booties, there's leather booties. I like leather a little better. They'll wear out quicker if you're running on smooth surfaces like asphalt, pavement, etc. But I feel like the dog gets more can at least grip the leather, and they're closer to the surface. Now, other booties that are made for snow will wear out quick on asphalt. Then you have rubberized booties, which I use on that. They get traction from the rubber, but they could still slide on asphalt. So booties are a necessary evil for some dogs all the time. Usually at some point in the life, depending on the circumstance, you'll have to use booties for whatever reason. I always have booties with me. So I've had a dog get a thorn in just walking in a field. We were free ranging off leash, just get a thorn. I mean, it's a big thorn. I saw the dog all of a sudden. So you see your dog limp, you got to address it right away because something's going on, whether it is from rubbing or getting something in the pad. But I had a thorn, and it was a big thorn. So and it was Zorro. So as soon as I got Zorro, I looked at him, I stopped him, and I looked. The thorn was there, and I was able to just take it out very gently, and it actually didn't hurt him at all. Once it was out, he had started limping. He was out, no blood, nothing. So that's my what I say on Paul, wear, and asphalt, hard surfaces, etc. And again, I'm saying this though because I want people to know there are solutions. Also, there's waxes out there. Musher Secrets, a big wax that you can coat the dog's pads for running in different conditions instead of booties, which still lets them grip it, but it's something that has to be reapplied. And it does work under certain circumstances, certain conditions. So let me see if we have any more questions here. Oh, thanks so much. So a shout out from I have a tough time seeing the name here, but from Stambo, I believe is the name. Likes my dogs. Thank you so much, Stambo. I really appreciate that. Thank you again, Connie. And Connie says the only issue with asphalt is when temperatures are too hot and paws get burned. I know you don't run your babies in the heat in the summer about asphalt. Yes, that is so true. So when asphalt, I carry a laser thermometer. Here's a great, sorry, I'll skip this ad here. So here's a great example why my laser, and it's just like I don't know, $20, maybe it's $50, a laser thermometer on Amazon I bought. And you can shoot it at any surface and it tells you the temperature. I don't use it on the dogs, but I'll use it on surfaces like asphalt. So we were running at a cool time of the year. There was a road crew. We had to cross a road on a trail, which is pretty common for a lot of roads. So we had to cross one, and the road crew was there, and they paved it. It was fresh asphalt. And they're like, "You can go," and I'm like, "No way, I'm not going because I don't know the temperature of the asphalt." Because when they pave that, it's like tar. It's very hot. So I had my co-pilot go there and measure the temperature, and they did say it was cool, but cool to them and cool to a dog is a different story. So we shot it with the laser thermometer, and it showed that it was low temperature. So that was a great, because usually if I have any questions, I'll get out with the laser thermometer and I'll test the asphalt, see where we're at. Again, I'm doing something called dog moto sports. That's what I developed, this whole concept. So the dogs, almost every vehicle they're tethered to, whether we're doing what I call dog roading or we're using the electric dog sled on wheels or just using a bike, almost everything I have is motor powered. So the dogs don't have to pull, and it makes it great for all dogs at all ages. And the dogs, they create heat anyway because their pads is where they sweat from. So when they're on a hard surface, it's going to be hotter than even the surface is registering to them, and it's going to limit, or it's going to stifle their ability to cool themselves. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I'm just trying to share my knowledge again for the betterment of all breeds. So you can see all my dogs. So I've got, just so you know, I'm going to address the video. You've got Jag and Chase. Chase is in front, actually. Chase was a tall, for the breed, husky. And again, he had brown eyes. So he would lope, and he got arthritis. Now, my vet is my veterinarian is usually amazed with my dogs, because he says all the work you do with them pays off so well, because your dogs, the arthritis and other age related mobility issues doesn't seem to affect them till later in life. He's like, wow, look at your dog get up. It gets up without really showing any signs of arthritis, even though they still probably have some. They all get it. So this mobility, everything I'm doing with them works. Now, they don't have to pull on this vehicle. Like I said, on any of my vehicles, they don't have to pull. And that's what makes it good for even young dogs like puppies, because puppies, you shouldn't work till they're 2 years old, till their growth plates meet, because you can stunt their growth and affect them greatly by working them too young. But you can still let them run. So we can put them on these vehicles and go faster than they can run, so they're not pulling, essentially. But for senior dogs also, you don't want them working too hard, and they can just go along for a stroll. And again, I don't have to walk. Even my senior dogs can mush. I don't have to walk as far as they do. I can spend more energy taking us to a cooler location and setting up everything we do than worried about the actual physical activity itself. That's what we're about. So I'm just going to check real quickly. By the way, any platforms you can comment on. Okay, so no new comments yet, but please please keep in mind if you want to comment. You, okay, I'm not. Sometimes, Connie. Um, that's a good question. Connie asked, "What's the ideal temperature?" So, it's a really good question. They say, I try to asphalt heats up a lot quicker than the temperature outside. So even though you're 70, your asphalt could be 85, 90 degrees from my experience. So where that'll burn you is I go by the temperature of my hand, which is usually 100 degrees or so. I think it's even hotter, and I got to go back. I have a guide on this, believe it or not, and I didn't bring it, so I'm not prepared. But it gets to where what I do is I measure, because you look that up on Google, and it's a little harder to tell. It's a little hidden, and they say what temperatures can burn humans, and that's what I go for, that temperature. So I know, because the dogs probably have a higher tolerance, but I don't want to push them, of course. So what I was remembering was, I think actually, to me, I'm 106 starts to feel too hot to the human from what I remember. But I've got my guide next to my laser thermometer that tells me, and I'll bring that, or I'll post that in the comment, what those temperature thresholds are, so I can better address that. But I'm always, like I said, I'm always going there and checking. And even though, as I'm saying, it might be cooler outside, when the sun is beating on a particular part of the asphalt, it can heat up quickly. Now, keep in mind, as you get into the cooler times of the year, the ground is colder also. So that helps cool it. So it becomes trickier. And that's why that laser thermometer is really good. Thanks for asking that, Connie. And again, I'll get the more specifics. But if you just want to look real quickly, you can go on Google and check that out.
We do have a new comment.
Here. Kristen, thank you, Kristen. I hope Kristen's said thanking me for the pad explanation. So I love it when I can explain something to somebody, and don't have to agree with me, certainly not, but at least get my perspective on it, because I'm out in the field doing this pretty much every day. So in some way, I'm adventuring with the dogs almost every day. So, and been doing it for like 30 years. So I really, it's valuable what I'm going to say. Every dog's different. That's why I say always check with your veterinarian, use your personal experience, and take everything what I say with a grain of salt, but just giving you some ideas here. And just checking for Rakit. I'm sorry, I'm probably saying this wrong. Likes this kind of life. Let me tell you, this is I know I'm living the dream. I'm blessed every day that I can do this with the dogs, but I want to say it's not out of reach for anybody watching this, because I started off with a simple bike, an upright bike with two wheels, and I just got this device called a Springer, which Amazon wasn't around back then. I'm talking circa 1995. Springer attached to the bike, and I was able to run I couldn't deal with the energy. I got up, like I said, I got a husky puppy, an all white husky with blue eyes. It was just always like wolf like to me. I was striking. I loved him. His name was Czar, not Zorro, Czar. And he was great until he started getting a little older, even 8 months, 10 months. He started becoming a handful. Then I've learned about riding him on the bike, and I took him around the block, and he was a different dog. I got home. A tired dog is a good dog, they say. And then I was like, you know what? I could do a lot of this with the dog and explore and adventure to bike trails, to areas that I've never been to before. And we can form a bond, and we can work together. And that's how the whole dream WooFDriver started. So thank you very much for that, Rakit. I appreciate that. Looking down here. Thank you, Connie, again. And any other questions, please feel free to ask. So I'm going to just talk a little more here about what you're seeing in the background. Again, that is Lola and Zorro. The other side is Jag and Chase. They're on the SwinCar, which is probably one of the most sophisticated off-road electric vehicles you can find. This was probably a little bit before Tesla, I think it came about. The designers and engineers are in France, and I had nothing to do with that. Ever since I saw the SwinCar, I wanted to get one to run the dogs, but I wasn't able to do it because they wouldn't sell them to me, because I'm in the United States and they're in France, and they had no dealers here. So I tried my very best to convince them to sell it, and they were like, we're not doing it, because they didn't want to get a bad name when it needed service, when I needed parts for it. that they would have to do it from Europe, and there was a language barrier. So finally, I'm gonna say that was in like maybe 2016, 2017. So finally, I guess in 2018 ish, they contacted me, or somebody did. The gentleman who got the dealership, he started a dealership in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it was called Adventure Sports. They were able to get the dealership for it, and they said we can now sell you one. So that was great. Unfortunately, they were around for probably 5, 6 years, and they just went out of business. So the SwinCars contacted me because I have a couple of their SwinCars, and they told me I can contact them directly till they get another dealer. And this is so cool. We're crossing the street on the SwinCar now, and it's just so cool. And again, the street riding we do is all about someone following me in some capacity. If we're and I hope to show this on the next video. We actually went to Washington D.C. at night to go to do the all the memorials. They call it the the National Mall. So it goes the U.S. Capitol, Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, Thomas Jefferson Memorial isn't far from there, and the Martin Luther King Memorial is all part of or all within the Washington Mall near it. So we went past the mall, and we got stopped by Secret Service, Park Police. Many times they let us continue though, because you're allowed to have dogs there and you're allowed to have bikes, and they didn't see a necessary problem with it, except for you're not allowed to use a motor. So I had to pedal. That back then, my rigs were some pedal power too. So I had to pedal with them. They said, don't use the motor. I remember one of the Secret Service agents telling me, I believe it was, don't use the motor, but I wouldn't know if you're using it anyway because they're so quiet. It's electric, it's not gas powered. But that was an incredible experience. I had a whole crew out there with me because we were concerned. Of course, DC, we went at night to avoid the really traffic time, the really busy time. But even at night, it was pretty crowded. So, and I think that was around Christmas, before Christmas, still in the cool, maybe this time of year. I have to look it up, but I hope to share that with you next time. So that's how we do it. The SwinCar was not around back then. That was another vehicle. So I'm going to ask my producer, how long have we been broadcasting, Rod? Do you know? 32 minutes. So we're gonna run another 10, 15 minutes here. So I'm all open for questions, comments, etc. And again, anybody that wants to ask me, I don't, care. You can cuss me out for all I care. Again, I'm not doing this for my well-being. I'm doing this for my dogs. And I know what we do is the greatest thing I can do for my dogs in the world. So and through generations, it's been proven to me. And so anything anyone says doesn't matter to me as long as I can do what I do. But I do want to let everybody know that there are people that don't understand it, and it affects the breed. And everybody who has something negative to say, it's okay to ask a question that you're not sure about or you think looks unusual, awkward, weird, whatever. But if you start propagating or posting bad comments about it, then someone comes along and reads it and says, yeah, that's terrible. They shouldn't be doing that. And they take that for the gospel. I mean, people today, you know the way they are. I saw it on the internet. It's got to be true. So I like to set the record straight. And no matter what the comment or question or concern is, I really like to address it personally as much as possible. I had a couple videos lately, and if you check me out, really go viral. People were digging them. And one of them is at the Dismal Swamp Canal Trail, and that's in Chesapeake, Virginia, not far from Norfolk, Virginia. And I stopped to talk to people, especially when we're watering the dogs. Now, if we're moving along, I don't stop the dogs, because once they're in a groove, I don't want them, they're working dogs. And with working dogs, you don't want them to get the wrong training or the wrong impression that every time they see somebody, they can stop and get some lovings, get this, get that, the other. You want them to keep working. If we're stopped because we're getting some water, we're taking a break, that's a good time to come up and greet the dogs and do what they're going to do. The dogs are great. We were stopped to do something, and there was a rollerblader. We were watering the dogs' pads. We were giving them water to drink, and we were just taking a break. There was a rollerblader there, and you might recognize this. This is the Dismal Swamp Canal Trail, has the big fake bear, and it says "Be Bear Aware." They call him Chessie. So you might remember my post. But I'm talking to the guy on rollerblades, and he was pretty excited. I think it's not in the video, he actually fell because he was trying to take a picture of us on rollerblades. Didn't look like he rollerbladed every day. He was just trying to learn them or get some exercise on him. But really nice guy. And a lot of people say, well, you really like the chat. And you really, they couldn't hear him asking me the questions. And I also record it because some people thought it was kind of awkward. I'm recording a conversation, but it's almost like getting interviewed by a newscaster or a broadcaster. Hey, how long have you had dogs? How long have you been doing this? What is that bike? They ask me really relevant questions that me doing it every day might not be as might not come to mind as much to explain to others. So by recording some of my interactions, I can broadcast those in Facebook Reels, Instagram, all social media, and people can say, "Oh yeah, that's how he's doing it. That's why he's doing it." So I think people enjoyed that, and it also brought to mind other questions people were asking. But I do remember, because I didn't set the video properly, that it looked wet under all the dogs, and people were like, "Oh, you got them standing in their own urine," and that's never the case. Once in a while, a dog will pee where we stop, and we just move the bike ahead a little bit to get them out of there. But we were spraying the dog's pads, and it wasn't always visible because we're filming in vertical format for better presentation on social media. So couldn't my guy, my co-pilot Scott, filming it, he couldn't give you the I couldn't give you the whole view all the time. So somebody noticed it, but they're like, why are they standing on their own pee? It was just the wetness from the actual spray. And we were creating what do you call that? Sorry, puddles that they could submerge their pads in, because again, they sweat from their pads. It's one of the most effective ways to cool them.
Okay, we got some questions on TikTok from Mark.
Okay, Mark.
And he's asking if any of your dogs is a rescue, because he has a German Shepherd mixed with Husky, and he wants to get mountain bike scooter, but he doesn't know enough. So he also wants to know what type of wheels, the wheel tires, do you get for your bikes?
Okay, hey Mark, great question. And since you put that question there, I might be able to better address it on with the wheel size that you're asking. But Mark was asking, he's got a Husky Shepherd mix rescue from what he was saying. And that's what's great about this. You could do it with almost any breed. A Husky Shepherd is going to definitely be able to do this really well. I've done it with my toy breed Chinese Crested that's all of 19 pounds. So because again, they don't have to pull. Now, it wasn't on this vehicle you're seeing here, or this electric dog sled. That was more of a scooter. But Mark wanted to know about what tires I use. So Mark wanted to do some mountain biking. That's great. That's phenomenal. And Mark's probably in better shape than me at this point in life. So you don't have to use electric. You can, but as long as you're pedaling them, they won't have to pull. Now, your Shepherd Husky mix can pull depending on his age and condition. And again, any dogs that start doing this, you want to build slowly. Everything is gradual, so they can, even though they have the capacity to do it, you got to get them conditioned to do it. Mark, you're gonna see many things out on the internet, explanations of this. When they're out in front, they're usually on a long line, which is called kind of like a gang line. That's what a dog sled uses. But that line is what connects to the bike, and they usually use these, what I'm going to call antenna-like springers. So sorry, we've got an ad here. I'm trying to monitor this as we go. So they're big springs, and they know them as antennas. They call them now on the internet. So the antenna will protect the dog. If it goes sideways, it'll actually give it some spring. It doesn't do anything for straight on. What I like to do, and how I like to run the dogs, just for better control. And I think even for mountain biking, it's going to be better depending how much you train your dog. If you can train the dog really well, almost like a lead sled dog, it can be out in front of you all the time. So it'll be pulling on that line, and a very motivated dog too. If you don't want to put the time in, or the dog just doesn't, personality isn't for that, put them on the side. That's the way I always do it, on a Springer, it's called. It's an Amazon product, or an Amazon handled product. And the Springer is a big spring that's got a loop on it that you can put a tether on to tether the dog to. And a great place to mount it, if you can, is under your seat, because the weight of you and the bike is going to keep the dogs from pulling you over if it sees a squirrel or wants to go in another direction. And the Springer teaches them how to ride next to a wheel. They're usually out of range of it anyway. If it's in the middle of your bike, it can't really get to the front wheel or the back wheel, depending on the tether size you use. Tethers, a lot of times when they're doing during sports, when the dog's out in front of you, they're using spring loaded tethers or elastic tethers. So the dog gets some spring. So sudden stops, bathroom breaks, or whatever, it doesn't get as much pressure on it. But the Springer has that built into it for any direction because the way it's tethered to it. So if you go to my website, I got a page, Dog Motorsports. I got like 20 websites because there's so many different issues and so many aspects to the lifestyle I live. But if you go Dog Moto, DOGMOTO Sports, SPORTS.com, and there's a section on there in the menu called Getting Started. And that explains a lot of this. So I can better help you. So different size wheels, it really doesn't matter. It's more of the terrain you want to run on to be concerned about how aggressive a tire is, if you're going to be doing a lot of mud running, if you're more on asphalt, etc. But remember, keep in mind, always carry booties, Musher Secret, always carry those products, and it explains it on the website. Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask any more. So I'm just looking to see if there's any more questions. Great question, Mark, and I always appreciate that. By the way, I never addressed why am I wearing this helmet? So I did want to show this helmet a little bit. So this is actually a helmet. So it's not a helmet per se that is going to be it's going to protect you. Maybe on a bike it might, but I'm not wearing it for this purpose. Again, we're when we go off road, I might wear a helmet, but most of the trails we go on lately, this trail in my background, the Antietam National Battlefield, was tame. It's a road. But so I mostly don't need these. I use them to mount cameras. So I found on Amazon, of course, this kind of hard type, they call it a DOT approved hat or I don't know. Some of them say DOT approved. I would never wear it on I ride a motorcycle. I wouldn't wear this. But what I like about the rigidness of it is I can mount cameras to it, and it's a nice, even, balanced fit. So the camera, I put a 360 camera on, is heavy. So with that on it, it's not going to flip flop all over my head because of the way it fits on and the chin strap. The camera will balance itself really well and it won't give me a headache, basically. So I mounted cameras to baseball caps. If you're using like a little GoPro or something, a small, they have a mini model, it's okay. But when you start getting in the bigger models, we're out there for 3-4 hours running the dogs, sometimes 5 or 6 hours. So it starts getting away on your head. This thing I wore yesterday, and it was so comfortable. Come out the camera horizontally. I'm using a Insta360 X4, or you can mount it vertically here, and it's got magnetic mounts, and some of them are more manual. But that's why I'm trying to show off a lot of my different headwear, for lack of a better description, on the trails of what I do to get some of the most amazing video footage and pictures. Even this video behind me you're watching, you can see me wearing, when you get glimpses of me wearing a ski board helmet because it was winter and it's got built-in ear to keep my ears warm because my ears get cold. And I'm wearing what looks like a 360 on there. It's probably the X3 or X2 Insta360 camera. And with the heavier, because they're helmets, they're made to take impact for snowboarding and winter sports. They're pretty well balanced too. So I use those. But in the summer, like we're having here, this is summer-like weather, even though we're in the fall now. These don't have any. I stay pretty warm, believe it or not, even though my ears get cold. So I don't need it right now. But as soon as the weather takes a dip, when the dogs will be happy, of course, then I'll use the either a hat, earmuffs under my hat, or I'll use the whole helmet with the built-in ear protection. So that's how I do it here. Any more questions or comments we need to address? Ryan, do you have anything? Look at that dog. Okay, here goes Ryan, who's asking me if I ever get sick of looking at the dog buttholes or does it turn me on? Okay, so great question, Ryan. I told you can ask me anything. I don't care. So you know what they say: if you're not the lead dog, the view never changes. Woo. And I'm not the lead dog because I'm sitting behind the dogs. But usually I'm actually elevated. So it's very important if I can see all the dogs and how they move, their movement, how they're holding their pads, their paws, and how they're holding their body. Because if you know how to read canine posture, it's like telling the whole story of what's going on. So if my dogs, sometimes you'll see dogs will get tired for different reasons, but usually with what I'm doing, if they start getting tired, they'll start moving a little bit to the side or running diagonally. Especially you work dogs on treadmills, you see them start moving diagonally. So I need to keep my eye. I'm not looking at their buttholes, but I'm looking at their body and what it's telling me. And I can tell a lot from behind the dog from where I'm sitting in the electric dog sled on wheels. So keep in mind that that they can't talk to you, even though huskies are very vocal. They're not going to describe to me exactly what might be going on with them. They'll just show it through their body posture. They say when a dog hides their holds their tongue to the side like that when it's going over its lips to the side, it's the closest thing to a human smile. So, and I get that. And the faster the dogs are going, a lot of times, the more they do that. They love going fast. And the neat thing about working them the way I do with the electric dog sled on wheels and biking with them, that you can get them to go fast like they didn't know they can travel sometimes, because dogs on a leash sometimes never get to really run. If you think about that, you're walking a dog, especially a husky, a high energy breed like that, they're usually pulling you unless you're using some sort of like a halty leash or collar to, because they want to go. That's what they do. So when you put them in a situation where they can safely run, like on the bike, it's like some dogs, you can rescue a dog they've never run before. They're like, whoa. And all of a sudden their face lights up, their tongue goes to the side, and they're as happy as can be. And that's what makes me happy, when I see my dogs happy. So I know Ryan was having a good time asking that question, but it's really an important aspect. What I would consider one of the most important aspects is reading a dog's body posture and knowing their movement, especially, of course, your dog, because you're going to know them best. So you're going to say, whoa, like I said earlier in the broadcast, Zorro had a thorn in his pad, one of my dogs. Just walking in a field, he picked it up. So I knew it because he started walking funny. He was actually limping. But sometimes it's subtle the way they'll do it. But I could tell. I know his gait, his stride, and I know the way he moves. So as soon as I saw it, like, something's going on here. And as soon as I picked up on it, it was just a thorn, and it was easily removed, no blood, etc. So it's really important. By the way, the front dog here, Chase, and that's him from looking at him from behind. He he lopes. He always loped because he was tall for the breed and long. So he would lope like a wolf, and because of his coloring, the what the solid whiteness of his fur, he was just a solid white dog with the brown eyes, almost golden eyes. He looked like a wolf. In fact, one place where I would free range, I rent farms to free range and to run the dogs in different capacities, like on the SwinCar you're seeing behind me. And with Chase, he I showed up one day. Nobody knew I was there. It was somebody who lived in a house. The owner of the area let me do it, and he ran inside and said, "We got wolves here. We got wolves here." And they're like, "No, that's just the dog guy." They called me, guy with the dog. So that's just WooFDriver running his dog. So, but you do have to be careful, because people, God forbid, a million times can shoot a dog they think is a wolf, or that whatever the case may be. So and I didn't know. I'm really careful where I go. So if there's an area, by the way, that I'll go, and during hunting season, I have any concern, I've got all kinds of bright colors to put on the dogs to identify them as dogs and as domesticated animals, so nobody would, God forbid, shoot them. But you do have to be careful, and then you got people that are trigger happy. So I mean, I try to avoid at all cost any area that might be problematic. So I'm going to see any more questions here. Um, uh, Cheryl, oh Cheryl, thank you. So Cheryl, I appreciate it. I know Cheryl's on the channel a lot. I really appreciate all your comments. Finally get to talk to you in person. So two Lolas, exactly. So believe it or not, all the Huskies I've had, I haven't had that many that look like actual Huskies. So my first one was Zorro, who's in this video, who actually looks like a Husky, but he's got Malamute in him. And you could tell if you met him, he's just big bone. Malamutes have big heads. And but he did have that husky coloring and the husky blue eyes. So Zorro, after Zorro, we lost Princess, who was another all-white husky. She's not in this video. I got Lola, and Lola looks just like Zorro. She's not quite as big, but she's a big girl. She's a big bone girl. She is all husky, and she does have the blue eyes. So I know You got a special place for her. That's Lola right there in the video right now. And Zorro's in front, and his fur was getting grayer at the time because he was getting older. And Lola just loved Zorro, and Zorro didn't care about her. Zorro was like, whatever. She was younger at the time, so she had more of that puppiness in her. And Zorro was an older male, and he was like, whatever. So that's fun. Asking if any more questions here. We're gonna close this out soon. Okay. Rod, you have any more on TikTok? No more questions. So, how long we been on for, Rod? So 50. So we've on here for 50 minutes. So I'm going to wrap it up. Give everyone one more chance here. Sorry, I get these ads in here just because that's the way YouTube does it. But again, in the video, if you're watching this, you watched it and you didn't catch it. We're on the Antietam National Battlefield, which is in Maryland. Antietam was one of the bloodiest or maybe the deadliest Civil War battles. And they say Antietam Creek, which is the waterway around there, actually ran red because there was so much blood spilled that day. It was terrible, or that battle. And the battlefield has a lot of commemorative statues, and I think there's some buildings, some fencing, whatever. And it's got a lot of historical relevance to the USA, of course, the Civil War you're talking. So we were able to take the dogs there and run them, as you see, on my SwinCar. SwinCar, again, we do more roading like exercise. It's more about resistance running. Most of the dogs you see in this video, they were getting older, so they weren't as engaged, if you will. But that's again what WooFDriver Dog Motorsports makes this possible. So you can adventure with them and you can exercise with them almost at any life stage in any capacity. And Lola, who I was just talking about, she's right there with Zorro behind her. Zorro in front of her. Is she's just getting over being, maybe she's 2 years old there. I'm trying to remember. So she had the most energy there because she's the youngest and she just wanted to go. But I put her behind Zorro because she had to learn the ropes. And Zorro, he could keep up. He didn't care. He was like a locomotive. I mean, he was like a train. That dog was incredible. So all dogs are incredible. So I'm WooFDriver. Hope you enjoyed the show. I hope I answered the questions that I see here. If you have any more questions or comments, don't hesitate to put them down in whatever social media platform you're looking at this at, and I will really try to get to them to answer them as best as possible. Again, I answer them so everybody can benefit. Of course, you asking the question, but even when they're smart alecky or a little outlandish, I don't mind answering them because I like to laugh. And sometimes it's funny what people put there, quite frankly. And sometimes what we do, the mistakes we make out in the field, I got a whole blooper section on my website, is funny. And if you can't laugh at yourself, then, I think we all got to learn to laugh at ourselves in some capacity. So you can make fun of me all day long. Who else would wear the cowboy hat is pretty cool, but some of the other helmets I wear is really outlandish. And one quick story I will leave you with. So through all the dog motorsports, WooFDriver, everything I do, it developed, and I explained this at one point. You can read about it on my website. It's ghost hunting, paranormal investigations. And one of my pit crew members, if you see my documentary, his name is Danny. And Danny will do almost anything too. Really, really good guy. Everybody I work with is great. But I had a helmet on him with this crazy camera spinner that they use. It does 360, goes around with the camera and a light, because we were doing some paranormal investigation at one of the prisons, I believe, up in Philadelphia. And it was a tour, so other people were there. And I remember Danny, being the ladies' man that he is, trying to talk to some ladies and forgot he was wearing this contraption on his head that was made him look like he had 2 different heads and 8 different eyeballs and everything else you can think of that is kind of weird. That's the way he looked, and they kept looking at him laughing, and I think he thought they liked him until I tapped him on the shoulder and said, Dan, you do realize you got a helmet on with about 3 different camera contraptions, correct? He said, oh, man. Not happy after that. So, but that's the kind of fun we have and what we do. With the dogs, it's all about love, fun, enjoying life, and enjoying every aspect we can. These dogs here in this video, 3 of them aren't here anymore, so it always goes out to them. I've had multiple generations of Huskies, and It doesn't get any easier when they cross Rainbow Bridge. That's Chase there, but it does bring a sense of comfort when you can constantly look back on the most incredible life experiences we had together, what we did with all this adventuring. And I'll take that to my grave. All the dogs I've sorry, not getting choked up, get a little drum. I am getting choked up, a little bit of a dry throat here. But all of the dogs that have touched my life, because it's really beyond incredible. And again, that's why I do this. They say, forget about making money, make memories. I know sometimes it takes money to make these memories, but the memories are the most important things that we can cherish in our life, from friends, family, our furry family, and everything in between. So I'm Wolf Driver. Before I start crying here, I am Wolf Driver, the one and only at this point. But if you drive a team of dogs, you can become a Wolf Driver too. There's plenty of people out there that do what I do on a totally different level. You got mushers out there, whatever. I'm just trying to get the point across that you can live an everyday life, not have to be a full-time musher to do what I do. So Wolf Driver here, signing off. We're trying to broadcast weekly. This time slot is working right now, but usually it's going to be 11 a.m. I'll start 11 a.m. noon broadcast. I'll start trying to post it once we start getting a better schedule. Don't forget, I've got a documentary coming up. You can go to dogdocumentary.com. Check it out. Always leave me comments. Always stay in touch. I enjoy it, and everybody learns. I'm signing off for today. Wolf Driver, have a great day. Happy trails to everybody. Hope to catch you out there. See you on the next time.